10th graders. Today's lesson is lesson number 5, claim, reason, evidence, and counterclaim annotation. Remember last week we reviewed key unit argument vocabulary, and today what we're going to do is we're going to identify some examples of those key terms in an article. So here's our goal. Read it with me. Goal: I can identify and annotate parts of an author's argument. Here's what you'll need to do now. You need a notebook, a pen or a pencil, or your iPad. And in your notebook, I want you to return to your unit vocabulary from lesson number 3. And together, we're going to review the terms claim, reason, evidence, and counterclaim. So in your notebooks, go ahead and follow along with me. We want to make sure that we have a good understanding of what these terms are so that when we look for them, we know what we're looking for. So our first claim is claim. And remember, a claim is an opinion statement that shows a position on an arguable topic. Next is reason, and that's a statement that supports the claim. And evidence, which is factual information used to support a reason that helps prove a claim. So these kind of go together. And then finally, we have counterclaim, and that addresses the opposite position on the topic, or takes the opposite of that original position. So today we're going to use the article, Young People Play a Vital Role in Stopping Spread of COVID-19. You have access to this document in your folder, and this is going to be our anchor text. So we're going to continue to come back to this article, so you want to make sure that you know where this is so that you can come back to it. So today what we're going to do is, first we'll read through it, and then we will do the annotation part. So we're just going to read these first 3 paragraphs. Notice I numbered my paragraphs, right? Marking my text. And as we read these first 3 paragraphs, I just want you to think about and be on the lookout for the author's overall claim. Okay? What is the author's claim? Remember, taking a position on an arguable topic. So where does she state her claim? So let's go ahead and begin. Young people play a vital role in stopping spread of COVID-19. Children and young adults may not be as likely to get severely ill or die from coronavirus disease 2019, COVID-19, as older adults, but experts say they have an important role in stopping its spread and keeping those who are most vulnerable from getting sick. We all are in this together, and we all need to practice social distancing, and that includes children, young adults, and the rest of us, said Sean T. O'Leary, MD, MPH, FAAP, a member of the AAP Committee on Infectious Diseases. The more we can slow the spread of this virus, the more lives we will save. It's clear if this virus spreads quickly, it will likely overwhelm our healthcare system in terms of availability of hospital beds and the availability of ventilators. So it's crucially important to slow the spread of this virus, and that's everyone's responsibility. A new study of U.S. COVID-19 cases published in the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report found the older people are, the higher the rate of hospitalization and death. Data show. So we're not going to read each of these bullet points, but I am going to read that very first one. Among ages 85 and older, 31% to 70% were hospitalized, and 10 to 27% died. So that's the oldest, right? And then as we gradually go down, you'll notice that there are less hospitalizations and less deaths, right? That's what that overall sentence said. Now that very last bullet point, I'm not going to point to it because then our little scroller will pop up. But you'll notice it will say ages 0 to 19, only 2 to 2.5% were hospitalized and none died. Now we have to keep in mind the date of this, but overall, we know that the younger that you are, the less rate of there is a less rate of hospitalization and death. Okay, so those are the first 3 paragraphs. Did you find a claim as we were reading? Because I did. That very first paragraph, I noticed a claim right away. And it's actually the second part of that sentence. Children and young adults may not be as likely to get severely ill or die from coronavirus 2019 as older adults, but experts say that they have an important role in stopping its spread and keeping those who are most vulnerable from getting sick. That right there is a claim. It's taking a position that young people, young adults, have an important role in stopping its spread. So I'm going to do the very first part of annotation and will act as if I'm in Notability right now. And I'm going to underline the author's claim and label it. I'm going to write above it, claim. Okay, so that's what we're going to do first. There's my claim. Now, the next part is I need to circle 2 to 3 pieces of evidence used by the author to develop the claim. And then I'll label it just like I did here. Okay, so that second paragraph to me helps develop this claim because the author is using an expert, right? We'll just start off. We all are in this together and we need to practice social distancing, and that includes children, young adults, and the rest of us, said Sean T. O'Leary, MD, doctor, MPH, FAAP, a member of the AAP Committee on Infectious Diseases, right? So this is an expert, and he says that they play a vital role because the more we can slow the spread of this virus, the more lives we will save. It is clear if this virus spreads quickly, it will likely overwhelm our healthcare system, right? He says, so it's crucially important to slow the spread of this virus, and that's everyone's responsibility, right? It's not just the old people need to stay home. Everyone who is likely to spread it needs to stay home, okay? So we're going to go ahead and circle that because that's evidence, a reason and evidence that supports the claim. Now, I need to write above my circled evidence and label it. I'm going to go ahead and write claim evidence here. And you can write it, you can type it however you want to mark it in Notability. Okay, so I've read my first 3 paragraphs, and I'm going to continue and just finish up this article and look for more evidence that supports the claim that young adults have an important role in stopping its spread and keeping those who are most vulnerable from getting sick. So that's our claim. Be on the lookout for additional evidence that helps develop the claim. Starting with paragraph 4, we're going to get right back into our reading, and here we go. The findings are in line with a recent study in pediatrics in which children in China with confirmed or suspected COVID-19 were less likely than adults to have severe disease. However, infants had more severe illness than other children. It's not that children don't get infected, and it's not that children don't get hospitalized, Dr. O'Leary said. They are. It's just less severe than it is in older adults. He also said that there are little data on children with special care needs who have COVID-19. I think it's safest to be extremely careful with those kids just as we are being careful with elderly, he said. If infected, children and people in their 20s and 30s may spread the disease to others even if they are not displaying symptoms. There is now more and more evidence emerging from the role of asymptomatic people in the spread of this virus. So, just because you're not feeling ill doesn't mean it's fine to go out to the bars, go out to the restaurants, because you, 1, could pick it up, and 2, maybe inadvertently spread it to others, Dr. O'Leary said. This is not to be taken lightly. This is like nothing anyone alive has ever seen. We are all in this together. So, this author continues to use Dr. O'Leary's expert opinion here, and I noticed a few more pieces of evidence that would help develop it. Okay, remember our claim was that young people play a vital role. So what's some additional reason and evidence that supports that? Well, if you notice in paragraph 5, he says, it's not that children don't get infected, and it's not that children don't get hospitalized, Dr. O'Leary said. They are. Okay, so that's continuing to show that even though they're not getting severely ill or passing away because of that, they are getting infected. And that does play a role in that they have an important role here. Okay, so I'm going to circle that and I'm going to label it as a claim evidence. So that's my second piece of evidence to support the claim. And I'm going to look for one more piece of evidence here that supports the overall claim. And I notice in paragraph 8, if infected children and people in their 20s and 30s may spread, if infected, children and people in their 20s and 30s may spread the virus to others, even if they are not displaying symptoms. Okay, that's another piece of evidence. I'm going to circle it and label it right above it, claim evidence. Okay, because that also supports the claim that they play a vital role. Yes, again, you're not getting seriously ill, you're not passing away from this, but you are spreading the virus. Okay, they have that possibility of spreading the virus, and therefore you do play an important role. Young people do play an important role. So those are my 3 pieces of evidence that support the claim. Okay, so we've done steps 1 and 2 here. And now what we're going to be on the lookout for is the author's inclusion of a counterclaim. And we are going to mark it by putting a little squiggly underline, and that's how we know that that's the counterclaim. So we're going to go back to the very beginning of this article, and I notice it in that very first paragraph, there was an inclusion of a counterclaim. Remember, it's the opposite, right? The opposite opinion of the claim. So here's that very first piece of that paragraph that I think is the counterclaim. Children and young adults may not be as likely to get severely ill or die from coronavirus 2019. We're going to put a little squiggly line here, mark it up, okay? And that is how I know that that's the counterclaim. And this is the counterclaim because it's showing like, okay, while they're not getting severely ill or they're not dying from coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19, and therefore it's not important. They are not important. Young adults and children are not important in stopping the spread and keeping those who are most vulnerable from getting sick, right? That could be an opposite position, an opposite opinion on this. They don't have an important role. So I'm going to underline it, and that is how I'm going to mark it to say that this is the author's inclusion of a counterclaim. The final step here is you're going to annotate and mark, circling one piece of evidence used by the counterclaim opinion and label it as counterclaim evidence. Okay, so where I saw some evidence included that supports children and young adults may not be as likely to get severely ill or die from coronavirus is, of course, these numbers that we have here, right? It is true that the younger people are, the less likely they'll be hospitalized and pass away or die. Okay, so here are the numbers that support that, but remember, this is the counterclaim. So we're going to go ahead and circle it, and then we're going to label it counterclaim evidence. So this is what your article, your new article that you'll have for your assignment should look like at the end. Okay, you're going to be marking in Notability. Remember, you learned how to do Notability, how to work with Notability for lesson number 4. And now you're going to be marking it up, and it should look exactly like this. Okay, you're going to underline the claim, circle 2 to 3 pieces that support, squiggly underline the counterclaim, circle and label one piece of evidence that supports. So here is your assignment. You will upload the article that you can find in your folder here. Will coronavirus reduce carbon pollution in Notability? And you will annotate the text. You're going to underline the author's claim and label it as the claim. Circle 2 to 3 pieces of evidence used by the author to develop the claim. Label as claim evidence. Squiggly underline the author's inclusion of a counterclaim. And then you will circle one piece of evidence used by the counterclaim opinion and label it as counterclaim evidence. So exactly how you saw our model or anchor text, that's exactly what it should look like when you are submitting. Once you've annotated, you're going to submit it to where it says claim, reason, evidence, and counterclaim annotation practice assignment. So that's the very last thing in our folder, our week 2 folder here. Our week 2 lesson 5 folder. And that's where you will submit that assignment.